Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our evening Bhagavad Gita circle reading program. Today we will continue with chapter 16, verses 11 and on. And the chapter is entitled The Divine and the Demoniac Nature. It will be read and explained to us by His Grace Balabhadra Bhattacharya Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, accept my obeisances. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
It's all mine?
It's all yours.
Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavana Pacharane Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Destarne. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, starting with text 11 and 12. Chintam parimeyam cha pralayantam upashritaha kamo papoga parama etavad iti nishchitaha asha pasha shatir badha kamakrodha parayana yahante kama bhogartam anyayenartha sanchayan. They believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable. Bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. Report. The demoniac accept that the enjoyment of the senses is the ultimate goal of life. And this concept they maintain until death. They do not believe in life after death. And they do not believe that one takes on different types of bodies according to one's karma or activities in this world. Their plans for life are never finished, and they go on preparing plan after plan, all of which are never finished. We have personal experience of a person of such demoniac mentality who, even at the point of death, was requesting the physician to prolong his life for 4 years more because his plans were not yet complete. Such foolish people do not know that a physician cannot prolong life even for a moment. When the notice is there, there is no consideration of the man's desire. The laws of nature do not allow a second beyond what one is destined to enjoy. The demoniac person who has no faith in God or the supersoul within himself performs all kinds of sinful activities simply for sense gratification. He does not know that there is a witness sitting within his heart. The supersoul is observing the activities of the individual soul. As it is stated in the Upanishads, there are two birds sitting in one tree. One is acting and enjoying or suffering the fruits of the branches, and the other is witnessing. But one who is demoniac has no knowledge of Vedic scripture, nor has he any faith. Therefore, he feels free to do anything for sense gratification, sense enjoyment, regardless of the consequences. Text 13 and 15. Idamadhyamaya labdham imam prapsye manoritam idam astidam api me avishyati purnadhanam asaumaya hata shatur anyase chaparanapi ishvaroham maham bogi sidoham balavan sukhi adyo bijanavan asmi konyosti sadriso maya yakshe dasyami modisya ityagyana vimohitaha. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future, more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. End of quote. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Text 16. Aneka chitta vibranta moha jala samavrita prashakta kama bogeshu patanti narake sucha. Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. Purport. The demoniac man knows no limit to his desire to acquire money. That is unlimited. He thinks only of how much assessment he has just now and schemes to engage that stock of wealth further and further. For that reason, he does not hesitate to act in any sinful way, and so deals in the black market for illegal gratification. He is enamored by the possessions he has already, such as land, family, house, and bank balance, and he is always planning to improve them. He believes in his own strength, and he does not know that whatever he is gaining is due to his past good deeds. He is given an opportunity to accumulate such things, but he has no conception of past causes. He simply thinks that all his massive wealth is due to his own endeavor. A demoniac person believes in the strength of his personal work, not in the law of karma. According to the law of karma, a man takes his birth in a high family, or becomes rich, or very well educated, or very beautiful because of good work in the past. The demoniac think that all these things are accidental and due to the strength of one's personal ability. They do not sense any arrangement behind all the varieties of people, beauty, and education. Anyone who comes into competition with such a demoniac man is his enemy. There are many demoniac people, and each is enemy to the others. This enmity becomes more and more deep between persons, then between families, then between societies, and at last between nations. Therefore, there is constant strife, war, and enmity all over the world. Each demoniac person thinks that he can live at the sacrifice of all others. Generally, a demoniac person thinks of himself as the supreme God, and a demoniac preacher tells his followers, quote, "Why are you seeking God elsewhere? You are all yourselves God. Whatever you like, you can do. Don't believe in God. Throw away God. God is dead," end of quote. These are the demoniac's preachings. Although the demoniac person sees others equally rich and influential, or even more so, he thinks that no one is richer than he and that no one is more influential than he. As far as promotion to the higher planetary system is concerned, he does not believe in performing yajnas or sacrifices. Demons think that they will manufacture their own process of yajna and prepare some machine by which they will be able to reach any higher planet. The best example of such a demoniac man was Ravana. He offered a program to the people by which he would prepare a staircase so that anyone could reach the heavenly planets without performing sacrifices, such as are prescribed in the Vedas. Similarly, in the present age, such demoniac men are striving to reach the higher planetary systems by mechanical arrangements. These are examples of bewilderment. The result is that without their knowledge, they are gliding toward hell. Here, the Sanskrit word moha jala is very significant. Jala means net, like fish caught in a net. They have no way to come out. Text 17. Atma sambhavita stabdha dhanamhana madhanvita yajante nama jagyaiste dambe na vidhi purvakam. Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulations. Purport: thinking themselves all in all, not caring for any authority or scripture, the demoniac sometimes performs so-called religious or sacrificial rites. And since they do not believe in authority, they are very impudent. This is due to illusion caused by accumulating some wealth and false prestige. Sometimes such demons take up the role of preacher, mislead the people, and become known as religious reformers or as incarnations of God. They make a show of performing sacrifices, or they worship the demigods, or manufacture their own God. Common men advertise them as God and worship them. And by the foolish, they are considered advanced in the principles of religion or in the principles of spiritual knowledge. They take the dress of the renounced order of life and engage in all nonsense in that dress. Actually, there's so many restrictions for one who has renounced this world. The demons, however, do not care for such restrictions. They think that whatever path one can create is one's own path. There is no such thing as a standard path one has to follow. The word avidhi purvakam, meaning a disregard for the rules and regulations, is especially stressed here. These things are always due to ignorance and illusion. Text number 18. Ahankaram balam darpam tamam krodam cha samshrita mam atma paradeheshu pradvisanto bayashu yuka. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. Purport: a demoniac person, being always against God's supremacy, does not like to believe in the scriptures. He is envious of both the scriptures and the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is caused by his so-called prestige and his accumulation of wealth and strength. He does not know that the present life is a preparation for the next life. Not knowing this, he is actually envious of his own self, as well as of others. He commits violence on other bodies and on his own. He does not care for the supreme control of the personality of Godhead because he has no knowledge. Being envious of the scriptures and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he puts forward false arguments against the existence of God and denies the scriptural authority. He thinks himself independent and powerful in every action. He thinks that since no one can equal him in strength, power, and wealth, he can act in any way and no one can stop him. If he has an enemy who might check the advancement of his sensual activities, he makes plans to cut him down by his own power. Wow. Text 19. Tan aham dvishata kruran samsareshu naradamam shipam yajashram ashubhan ashuri sveva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Purport: in this verse, it is clearly indicated that the placing of a particular individual soul in a particular body is the prerogative of the supreme will. The demoniac person may not agree to accept the supremacy of the Lord, and it is a fact that he may act according to his own whims. But his next birth will depend upon the decision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and not on himself. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd Canto, it is stated that an individual soul, after his death, is put into the womb of a mother, where he gets a particular type of body under the supervision of superior power. Therefore, in the material existence, we find so many species of life, animals, insects, men, and so on. All are arranged by the superior power. They are not accidental. As for the demoniac, it is clearly said here that they are perpetually put into the wombs of demons, and thus they continue to be envious, the lowest of mankind. Such demoniac species of men are held to be always full of lust, always violent and hateful, and always unclean. The many kinds of hunters in the jungle are considered to belong to the demoniac species of life. Wow. Text 20. Asurim yonim apana muda janmani mam aprapyaiva konteya tito yant ya damam gatim. Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. Report, it is known that God is all merciful. But here we find that God is never merciful to the demoniac. It is clearly stated that the demoniac people, life after life, are put into the wombs of similar demons. And not achieving the mercy of the Supreme Lord, they go down and down, so that at last they achieve bodies like those of cats, dogs, and hogs. It is clearly stated that such demons have practically no chance of receiving the mercy of God at any stage of later life. In the Vedas also, it is stated that such persons gradually sink to become dogs and hogs. It may be then argued in this connection that God should not be advertised as all merciful if he is not merciful to such demons. In answer to this question, in the Vedanta Sutra, we find that the Supreme Lord has no hatred for anyone. The placing of the asuras, the demons, in the lower status of life is simply another feature of his mercy. Sometimes the asuras are killed by the Supreme Lord, but this killing is also good for them. In the Vedic literature, we find that anyone who is killed by the Supreme Lord becomes liberated. There are instances in history of many asuras, Ravana, Kamsa, Hiranyakasipu, to whom the Lord appeared in various incarnations just to kill them. Therefore, God's mercy is shown to the asuras if they are fortunate enough to be killed by him. So I think we'll stop there. Let's see if anyone has any thoughts about this. This is very powerful stuff.
Prabhu, I was going to ask a question on that, but I'm going to see what is from the other devotee. We have something from Padmanabh here.
Yes.
He said, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, excellent obeisance, always a Prabhupada. I should have bought a lottery ticket today too. I've been tied up last couple of weeks, so could not join the Bhagavad Gita reading circle. I was able to join today, and it was your turn today. Wow, very excited and inspired. I'm listening to you, Prabhuji, your servant Padmanabh, the lottery ticket.
Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada, Padmanabh, accept my humble obeisances.
This is really nice.
Haribo. Beautiful words of encouragement. I need those words. Thank you.
It was really amazing. Would like to ask devotees have any questions, any comments, clarification, food for thought. Please do post it. I will read it, or you can just unmute yourself and ask a question. Prabhu, I have a question, and as you're reading all the verses were really, really powerful, but this one, so here it's funny that when you're reading the beginning of the purport, the same thought came to my mind, but the Lord has no enemies. And then we get the answer, right? And the answer to the question is that the Lord is, is by killing the enemies, the demons, the Lord is being merciful. So my question, Prabhu, is, because we know that the Lord has no enemies, and by him killing the enemies, he is liberating them, does that mean, and I think it says somewhere, that they still go down, down, down?
No, when he liberates them. Yeah, just like when he killed, it's funny, when he killed Aghasura, the big demon 8 miles long, because all the cowherd boys went inside, and then Krishna was waiting outside, and the demons was waiting for Krishna, and then Krishna went inside, and then he killed the demon. So when he killed him, a bright light, his spirit came out and hovered, waiting for Krishna to come out. So when Krishna came out, then he merged within Krishna. So he got that liberation, but that's not the liberation that devotees aspire for, merging with the Lord. That's one of the bona fide ways of being liberated. So their liberation is not exactly the liberation of a pure devotee, but it's still liberation. So the Lord is giving them mercy. So, and then Putana, because she came in contact with him, her body smelled so fragrant when they killed her and all that, she became purified, and because he accepted her as his mother. So then the question really comes up, what about people who just die? They just, they die for whatever the reason, They didn't get to see the Lord, maybe they didn't meet the Lord's devotees. What happens to them? That's a big one right there. What do you think, Anasuya? You're on mute.
Beats me, Prabhu.
Anybody out there have any thoughts on that? The people who just died. Why God is just letting everyone just die and they don't see a devotee, they don't meet the Lord. Why is the Lord so mean like that? Who can say? They're thinking, what do you say, Bhagavad? I mean, Prabhupada says here, the Lord is very merciful. So Brahmanda Brahmite Kaun Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. By the mercy of the Lord, somehow person comes in contact with the mercy of the Lord and the mercy of the devotees. That's why the Sankirtan movement is so important, because those who would otherwise not have any contact in their life can get contact just by seeing the devotees. And check this out, even if they don't see the devotees, even if they don't hear the holy name, what about that? Because the Sankirtan jug is so powerful, it goes into the atmosphere and purifies everything. So all the people who are in Kali Yuga are fortunate because they get the mercy that the Sankirtan movement is going on, period. Prabhupada said that in one talk. He said, even if they don't hear, okay, we're so fixed on, we want to go in a big crowd of people and hundreds of people, and they're going to have them all dancing with us in a circle. That's a successful Harinam. It is. But it's just as successful to go out and chant, and it goes into the air and it purifies. Was it Haridas Thakur? And when he was asked that question, what about the inanimate objects? How do they get the mercy? He said, the loud chanting. What else do you need? Chant. That sound vibration goes out. Even scientifically, they say it circles the planet. Well, I forget 7 times or whatever they say. Every Hare Krishna affects not only you and those in the immediate area, but it affects everything. That's why Prabhupada said in one place, I wish I had the quote in front of me, when the chanting Sankirtan Jagya goes one after the other, after the other, after the other, then Kali Yuga will be transformed into Satya Yuga. And also in that pastime of Lord Ramchandra, 9th canto, he said, the Lord is so mercifully appeared in this age in the form of his holy names. So the Lord is here. He's expanding his mercy everywhere, and everyone is benefiting. That's why it says the demigods are waiting in line to take birth in Kali Yuga, because it's so easy. But it's easy, but it's a sacrifice. I was just talking to a wonderful devotee right before this class. He asked me, Prabhu, how do I become more fixed up in Krishna consciousness? How can I go to that next stage? I said, you want to know the answer? He said, yes, I want to know the answer. I said, how many rounds are you chanting? I'm struggling to do 4, maybe I do 2. I said, well, the answer is you take up the sacrifice of 16 rounds, because that's what Srila Prabhupada gave us. That sacrifice will bring you to the very high level of Krishna consciousness, because it is a sacrifice. I said, Prabhu, it's not going to be easy. You're struggling with 2 rounds or 4 rounds, but to speak of 16. But you see all the devotees doing these big pujas and mantras and blah, 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 blah. I don't mean to, put it down, but I'm saying that's not even close to the sacrifice of chanting Hare Krishna. Believe me, you can know every Sanskrit mantra in all the Sanskrit books. It doesn't even come close to one Hare Krishna mantra. Period. End of story. Say the Hare Krishna mantra with purity, greater than any sacrifice. Right? Harinama, 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 Kevalam, Kalo, Nasteva, 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 Gatyanyata. Nasteva means not by karma, not by jnana, not by yoga. Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva. So powerful. So all I'm saying is that we really don't have to worry about it. All we have to really do is increase the chanting. I always give this example of what successful businessmen say. How do you become successful? And the answer is, the only thing you should say, the only question you should ask, how can I improve upon that which I'm already doing? If I'm making ice cream, how can I make it better? If I'm making a widget, how can I make it better? I mean, you think of these big successful people. They come out with a new thing every year, better than that. The iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, to like iPhone 15. I mean, come on. They're thinking how to make it better. So in Krishna consciousness, how can I improve upon that which I'm already doing? What am I doing? chanting Hare Krishna. How can I improve? Just listen to the holy name. The more you listen to the holy name and the more pure you become, the more impact you can have in the world. Then you become Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. You become that mercy. We all become that mercy. The person who gave me Krishna consciousness was a brand new Bhakta from Spanish Harlem, New York, in Atlanta. And he saw me standing on the corner. He said, "This brother looks spaced out. Let me give him Krishna." So he gave me Krishna. And I was like shocked. And from that encounter, here I sit today. Wow. So, yes, Krishna, as Prabhupada said, you pointed it out nicely, honestly, because I'm thinking the same thing. He's saying there's no hope for the demoniac. And we feel, oh my God, people are going to just die. Oh, what are we going to do? But at the same time, he's saying these are all his children. Yeah. You know, sometimes you spank your child or you stick them in a closet. Don't do that. But anyway, you do something to chastise or punish them, spare the rod, spoil the child. Doesn't mean you hate them. Okay, it means that you love them. So Prabhupada nicely, correctly answered that question, right? The placing of the asuras, the demons, in the lower status of life is simply another feature of his mercy. Mm-hmm. How do you square that? He says, mercy? Can you find another form of mercy besides putting me in hell? Or besides, punishing me? Just give me something else to do. No, that is the Lord's mercy. Suffering is a symptom of God's love. Prabhupada said that. Suffering is a symptom of God's love. Why am I suffering? Okay, because Krishna loves you. What do you mean by that? Because Kunti Devi said, let the suffering happen again and again and again. She's a pure devotee, very elevated soul. And she's saying to the Lord, now that we're not in the suffering, you're going away from us. Not good. Let me suffer again and again so I can always think of you. And by thinking of you, I will no longer have to see this samsara. Better we suffer, my Lord. Now that we're not suffering, we think everything is okay. When we were suffering, just like when Draupadi was suffering, she tried to protect herself, and then she realized I only have Govinda, and she cried out for his mercy. And the Pandavas were suffering with their dear mother, and then Krishna made all the arrangements for them to come out. And now Kunti is saying, put me back in that suffering, because then I was forced to think of you. I had nothing else I could depend on. So yes, it's Krishna's mercy. But that's a hard philosophical point to try and share with people, because they say God is love. Your Krishna is not a good God because he's like causing wars and death and punishing everyone. God is love. He is love, but he's also a very attentive parent. And any parent to help his child progress will sometimes cause pain. I know you didn't have to do that with your daughters, Anisui. I know your daughters are so sweet.
Wasn't easy raising them, Prabhu.
Anyway.
You beat me up. Let's put it that way. There's a nice quote here by a point here from Dhara Krishna. He said, even to those who have no idea about God or soul or next life, Krishna is kindly giving them a new body to enjoy in this material world in the form of death.
Yes. Good point. Very good point.
Yeah, very nice. Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts? Any, question, any clarification? Prabhu, I have a question, and this is from verse 17 that you just read. And probably if my daughter can go back to that. And Srila Prabhupada used the word self-complacent. Mm-hmm. And I am assuming self-complacent, he is referring to complacency. Is it 17? Okay, probably it's 18 or 16. I don't know, Krishna. Mm-hmm. It's one of the verses. But Srila Prabhupada used the word self-complacent, and I'm thinking self-complacent, he's referring to complacency. And to my limited understanding, I'm thinking complacency refers to laziness or taking things for granted, or and to me, again, Prabhu, with my limited understanding, that to me that relates to more of ignorance. how is that tied to demoniac nature?
Well, it's actually Krishna saying it in verse 17.
7.
Yeah, verse 17. It's called Atma Sambhavitaha, self-complacent. So that's actually in the verse itself. Take right there. Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige. They sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulations. So when we say complacent, right?
I'm thinking it's the
Complacent
same meaning.
definition. Okay, let's see what it says. Okay. Wow. This is interesting. Complacency. That's not giving me a good definition. I want a simple. What does it mean to become complacent? Marked by self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies. Marked by complacency, self-satisfied, a complacent smile, a complacent sense. Yeah, so it's self-complacent. It's like lazy, not really, because it's in the Sanskrit, self-complacent. Yeah. So that's somewhat of a lazy person. What else? Anybody have another understanding of that word?
I'm Googling on Google. I mean, yeah,
Oh,
I'm
here,
Googling the
wow.
word.
Self-complacent is also an adjective, self-satisfied. Excessively and unwarrantedly satisfied with oneself or one's achievements. Smugly complacent. You know, there's an example that I heard years ago in a personal development meeting. The guy was describing a story of this man sitting on a porch, and he was a salesman approaching that man, and he had a dog, a hound dog, sitting next to him. And the man was there, and then the dog was making some, you know how dogs kind of, like that. So, but he was not moving. So then the man asked him, the salesman asked him, what's going on with your dog? He's sitting on a nail, but he's too lazy to get up.
Hare Krishna.
So he's just howling and complaining. So that's kind of like complacency. You know, here we are stuck in this material world and we're not doing anything. We're satisfied with where we are, wherever we are. People are satisfied with that. Now, the knowledge that we receive in Krishna consciousness causes us to want to get out of this suffering condition. But the complacent person is satisfied with what they have, the little things around them, as Prabhupada described in Krishna saying here. He has enemies, but I'm making plans to get rid of them. I have more money than anyone. I'm satisfied. That satisfaction is part and parcel of that complacency, not willing to do anything more. And then not realizing, just like that dog, you know, you're suffering. How am I suffering? Well, you're dying. I mean, you know, your body's grown old. You've gone through so many changes. Death is the next one, but they still can't get motivated. So that complacency will cause us not to get motivated to make a change in our lives. That's why suffering is actually very good. If you can reflect on suffering, that everything in this material world is temporary, full of misery, if you can see that, if you can help a person to see that, then the complacency will gradually diminish and it will be replaced with enthusiasm to make further spiritual advancement, just like the young devotee who just called me, asking me, how can I make more advancement? Obviously, he's feeling something pushing him, good or bad. And he was actually telling me, he said, you know, I don't want to deal with girlfriends and this and that right now. I just want to make spiritual advancement. These things are coming after me. It's like right before I joined the temple. I mean, I was actually singing with a group, but I also played drums. So my manager, when he knew I wanted to join the temple, he said, hey, Benny, don't do it, man. I'll buy you a brand new set of drums. I said, too late. I've already made my mind up. This suffering that's all part of this lifestyle that I was living was not, I knew, I'm being very open and honest with you. I knew I was not satisfied. Every time I took an intoxication and I came away from it, I said, why did I do that? Every time I chased after a girl or something, and I said, why did I do that? I started questioning, why am I doing this? That's when I came in contact with devotees. When I came to that Atato Brahmajigasa stage, inquiring, seriously, man, everything, it's like dominoes. Boom, 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 boom. So again, the main point here is that this suffering is meant to bring us to some stage of realization in life. So the Lord causing suffering is a blessing. Our duty is to be there to help guide people through that whole process of understanding why they're suffering. Everyone's asking the question, why are we suffering? But no one knows the answer. The answers are in these literatures, especially translated by Srila Prabhupada, because he takes the time to make it so simple and clear.
In fact, I was Googling just now, Prabhu, and one of the questions, one of the answers that came up as being complacent is similar to being lazy. Often when we get upset with our current situation, but refuse to work to improve,
Yes.
you're being complacent.
Yes.
A complacent person never works to reach their potential because they feel that it is pointless.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love that. It's exactly how Prabhupada's helping us here, you know? Complacent. Yeah. So let's not be complacent. Even some level of Krishna consciousness that you think you have already, and you become complacent in that scope. You should always be making more advancement, like in, what was that, 13th chapter? Yeah, 13th chapter, verse 8 through 12. And there's 20 elements of knowledge. And then Prabhupada in the second paragraph, after he explains about humility being, one should not be anxious for the satisfaction of being honored by others. So in the latter part of that paragraph, he says, one should have a test in how he's making advancement. And he can use these 20 items for that test. So we should not become complacent. Let me see how I'm doing in Krishna. How am I doing with chanting my rounds? How am I doing with what Rupa Goswami says, you know, in the 6 loving exchanges? There's so much knowledge that we have that we can check ourselves. I think we were talking about in the class the other day, having this inner dialogue going with yourself all day. Pull yourself back. I had to do it many times today. Went to the store and I had to shop, so I had to pull myself back. Went over here and yes, it's a whole process, and we should not.
Bhakti Swami always mentions about that, Prabhu, internal dialogue. He really talks about internal dialogue so much.
It's very important. I mean, as people say, what are you doing? Talking to yourself? No, I'm talking to the Lord. But I'm also, you know, I'm talking to the Lord and I'm having this dialogue, but my mind is there and my intelligence is there. I'm trying to put it all in perspective, you know. So the more we work on that during the day, and like I say, you got your little toolbox, you got all this knowledge in your little toolbox. When your mind gets crazy, Chanchala Himana Krishna, you just bring it back. Krishna says, wherever it goes, bring it back. But if you don't have anything in your little satchel, your little spiritual book bag or whatever, your mind's just going to go crazy. But as long as you know, it's just my mind, it's not me, you're in good shape. When you start identifying with the mind or the intelligence, that's when you have trouble. I'm separate from that. So the mind is higher than the senses, right?
Yeah.
Intelligence is higher than the mind and higher is the self. And then higher than that is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So much nectar. I mean, it's whew.
It is. It definitely is like endless nectar. It can go on and on and on and on. Yes. And I was remembering one point, Prabhu, when you were speaking about suffering and seeing the mercy. I think in one of our early classes of Bhagavatam that we started 2.5 years ago, don't know whether it was your class or Mother Gita's class, but I remember because I was looking at my notes yesterday, when I take notes during classes, and the first page was how to see blessings through our sufferings and austerities, you know. And like you mentioned, Mother Kunti, Prabhu, like sometimes when we go through sufferings, it's so hard to see the mercy and the blessing. But at the same time, Prabhu, when we go through suffering, how can we heal from it?
Heal from the suffering.
If it's like hurt and pain, it's like probably like 5, 10 something years down the road, we say, oh my God, that was that was Krishna's mercy. But somehow or the other, there's some hurt, some level of hurt, some level of pain. How can we really heal from that?
Well, I mean, it's not like a wound on your body. You can put some medication and, it heals naturally, whatever. These are deep emotional feelings, correct? So we first have to separate ourselves from the emotions because that's relating to the body. So we always go back to the first lesson. We're not the body. Or gross or subtle body. Which one are we? We're neither one. We're not the subtle or the gross body. So then if I'm allowing myself to be amalgamated or mixed into the subtle and gross body, that's when I start to suffer. That's why Krishna tells us. The second chapter is like so fundamental. Matra sparshata konteyas tatosna sukha dukkada agamapai no nityas tam tatiksha sabharata. That's number 14, second chapter. That this happiness and distress is coming like winter and summer seasons. Really, you can't change it, right? So learn to tolerate. So the operative word that I always refer back to in that verse is tam tatiksha swa. Tatiksha swa. Tatiksha means tolerate. Learn to tolerate. So then I go a little further. Well, because I know what it means to learn. We all know what it means to learn. There's a process, there's time involved in it. So Krishna says, learn. He didn't say tolerate. He could have said just tolerate. He said, learn to tolerate. Oh, okay. That means I can understand that. It means I have to practice. Yeah. But if I don't get a ball thrown to me with the bat, how am I going to practice? So Krishna throws suffering like balls being thrown to a bat for a baseball guy, or a basketball. And the coach keeps throwing the ball back. You keep missing. He said, keep trying. Krishna throws suffering after suffering after suffering after suffering. Then you start waking up going, Krishna's testing me. Let me try to remember him in the midst of this suffering, just like he tested Draupadi, just like he tested the Pandavas. And more recently, how he tested Prabhupada. He tested Prabhupada over and over and over in so many different ways. Why would he not test us if he tested Prabhupada? Like Jesus, I think in the Bible, Jesus said something like that. I don't remember the exact quote. Why would they not cause trouble to you if they cause trouble to me? Something like that. So we will have difficulties. So if we just pay attention to when suffering happens and we remember Krishna in that suffering, then we can say that was a blessing. Krishna caused me to remember him. So nice, so beautiful. Otherwise, and the other thing is having good association so that when you're confused about something, you can get on that phone, you can get on WhatsApp or whatever, go to the person's house, and then, back and forth, try to get some guidance. No man is an island. No man can make it on his own. Takes a village to raise a child. Takes a whole village to raise a devotee. Takes a whole congregation to raise one devotee. Then that devotee might slip. So then we surround that devotee with love. Please don't condemn devotees too much. There's a story of Kirtanananda. And Kirtanananda had so many ups and downs, but at this one point, Prabhupada actually said, I don't want this man to say anything in any of our temples. And you read the letters, there's 43 letters where Prabhupada just condemned him. Boom, boom, boom. And then the last letter in that series, Kirtananda came back and fell at Prabhupada's lotus feet. And Prabhupada says, I was praying every day to Krishna that you would come back. Condemning him on the surface, praying in the background, Krishna, please bring my baby back, bring my children back. So we should always have that mood. Krishna, please be merciful to that guy who did this. Last story, when Prabhupada was staying with that hippie who was freaked out on drugs and chased out, later on, guess what? Prabhupada said, how is my friend doing? He called him his friend. The man chased him on the street. He didn't know where to go. But guess what? that was the catalyst for the movement expanding. And Prabhupada said, how is my friend Mr. Such and Such doing? Unbelievable. So that's a true testament to being able to put suffering in perspective, make some advancement. We will suffer, so you might as well make advancement from it. Come on, everybody. You're gonna suffer, so why not make advancement from the suffering? Yeah, but I don't want to suffer. Too bad, you are gonna suffer. So every time you suffer, remember Krishna. So then you start welcoming the suffering. Now, hey, I don't like to suffer either. Okay, but when I do get thrown into those kind of whatever situations, I try my best to, I was really sick when I came back from India in 1990, and I was so sick I couldn't get out of the bed, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. And every day I would lie there and listen to Mahatma's kirtan tape. It was one of the original cassettes that he made. I played it so much the thing just broke. So Mahatma had to give me a CD one time. Every day I would just drown myself in hearing that, suffering like anything. It was hard to chant rounds. I said, but let me just hear it. Let me just hear it. That was a great blessing. Great blessing. Anyway.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Definitely, definitely helping me to really see suffering, and especially when you were sharing with Prabhupada how, this guy drove him on the streets, and then later on, it's like he has a friend. And then now, yeah, right. And then now, and like you said, had it not happened, we wouldn't be in a movement right now. So everything happens for a purpose, and the Lord has his, his handiworks involved in it somewhere. That's nice. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Any questions from devotees? I know we passed, it's always nice to have this discussion, and then we lose track of time. That's the most fun part. Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts, any, reflection that you would like to share? Okay, and if there isn't, we thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for reading these wonderful verses. Vanchakapatibhyascha, kripasindhubhevricha, patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.